If you like our show, please consider joining our Patreon community, patreon.com/Winsidr. For less than a cup of coffee a month, you can directly show support for the hard work we do covering the W. And don't forget to see our amazing staff's written content over at winsidr.com. That's winsidr.com. In preparation for the season, we've expanded our content on a variety of social media platforms. Make sure you're following us, Winsidr, on TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter, and YouTube. And again, make sure you're checking us out on patreon.com/Winsidr. Welcome back to the Winsidr Show. Excited to be here. Excited to shoot the breeze. I was about to swear. I didn't do it. Excited to talk basketball with you, Rachel. You finally landed back home for hopefully more than a couple days. I don't know, maybe.
I think I'm back for 2 weeks, just a little over 2 weeks. So,
from scouting the world of the greatest young talent around the world in basketball, why don't you give a quick glimpse into is the future bright? Is it dim for women's basketball? What's going on?
Super bright, super exciting. I mean, you guys have been in this with me for years now. It is hard. I'm not going to lie. Like, we're going to have to use some of this show for you catching me up on the WNBA. When you're over there and you're traveling the world and you're spending all this time in all these different time zones and countries. I've been gone 19 of the last 23 days. And you're so locked in on just that present day and where you need to be, how you're getting there. And then you're watching the competition, you're taking the notes, you're taking the evaluations, you're connecting with coaches. It's just like this whole other world. And it's really difficult for me to be locked in on the W, especially with the time zones, like you don't even realize, especially when I was in Singapore, I was like, what day is it? What time are they playing? I don't know. You really lose all concept of time and space. I mean, shout out to everybody who lives overseas, and maybe there comes a point where you adapt to those times and, it just is your normal. But for me, I really struggled with it the last month or so because it was like, I don't know, it was a lot. But from my perspective, being in Singapore, being in La Palma, Spain for under 18A, being in Lithuania for under 18B, I mean, these are events I've been going to for 17 years now. I'm showing my age, but super promising. I mean, we had dunks, we had, just high level competition. Spain did a great job of knocking off France. That was an unbelievable feat for Spain. And then Sweden in under 18B, kind of the surprise, did a great job of just winning in Lithuania. So it was fun. I feel really encouraged about the future. And we saw some really dominant play and some dominant figures really emerge through different countries. But I'm not going to lie. I'm going to need you and those listening to kind of keep me updated and kind of fill me in. I obviously have caught up on some things. The big news today being Caitlin Clark is missing the All-Star weekend. Not to be a Debbie Downer, but like that news just came out when we're recording this. And like, obviously All-Star weekend's here. Let's talk about it a little bit. I mean, I'm a little bummed. We were thinking about going for Basketball Without Borders, and also you had international camps there. I'm from Indianapolis, but like I'm toast. So I'm not going to be able to make the trip this year.
I tried, guys. I tried to pull her. I tried to make her go.
The FOMO is real. But like seriously, I'm just going to enjoy it from my couch. But yeah, what disappointing news. It just kind of feels like disappointment after disappointment right now when it comes with the Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark in particular, obviously hampered by injuries. And like, that sucks. I don't know if she's been 100% all year long. And just from a broader perspective, I mean, you basically build an entire all-star game around this momentum in Indianapolis. The 3-point shooting contest, not having her compete in that is just a huge bummer. For the Fever, for Clark, for the league as a whole. I mean, just really disappointing. You hate to see it because, the excitement around this league and the excitement around her and what she's brought to the league, not getting a chance to see, one of your star players do what she does just sucks. What are your thoughts on that and that news? I mean, obviously there's really nothing we can do about it. So, opportunity for others, that's kind of the theme of this WNBA season. We've been saying it over and over. It's so much opportunity for other players to step up. But man, there's been a lot of injuries with this all-star team in particular. A lot of replacements have had as well. Yeah.
Satu's out, Ryan Howard's out, Caitlin Clark's out. So far we know K-Mac. I don't think we know any other replacement players yet. I assume the short list somewhere around there has to include, Brittany Sykes, who's been having a really good season, but would be kind of surprising just given the not good record by the Mystics, like no shade or anything, to have 3 players making the All-Star game. So, but that probably doesn't come into effect as much when you're in that situation. Maybe Alana Smith, someone from Minnesota. Maybe we see another player like a Natasha Cloud who's already going to be there. A lot of variety of options that could happen from the top teams too. Look, do I want to be that person to say it? Like, Caitlin Clark hasn't been like that amazing when she has been playing recently. We don't need to get into like a whole deep dive on it. I understand she hasn't been healthy, but like, this is part of a growth process. I think a lot of people came into this thinking she was just going to light it up, and she had an amazing rookie season where she did light it up a lot. But that said, at the end of the day, she's been struggling this season. She hasn't been able to find her shots as easily, as smoothly as we saw in that rookie season. And part of that is the league has more film on her. They grow and adapt, and they adjust what they're doing. You're talking about the best basketball league in the world. They are going to make adjustments. She was not a cheat code. Like, she wasn't doing something that Maya Moore hasn't done, or Candace Parker, or Simone Augustus, or, all Cabby Pondexter. Like, all of these different players have had streaks where they were seemingly unstoppable, and the league adjusts. And the league is going to adjust to any player who's having an amazing tear. And it's up to that player to constantly readjust back. And it's part of the give and take. A'ja Wilson is amazing because her ability, no matter what defenses throw at her, no matter what the opponent does to her, finding a way to be successful, find her shots, make her shots, and be active in other stat categories and other, important impact plays. So I think this is a learning experience. And honestly, maybe it takes a little bit of the spotlight away from her. Obviously not so much, because it's like 15 spotlights on her, but she can hopefully grow from this. Yeah, it sucks from a perspective of, like you were saying, this whole, not just the All-Star game, Rachel, like, we can be honest about it. The league has started to cater to the Indiana Fever fan base in the sense of like trying to market them on the big time TV, whatever games and whatnot. And I get that, and it sucks for the league, and we've seen it drop off. But is the barn isn't burning down. No. There's other amazing teams playing basketball. The Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark were not the best last year. They're not the best right now. So far, it's been a really disappointing season for Indiana. But you still have half a season to make it better.
For sure. I mean, and like I said, I mean, we've that's kind of what we wanted to do this show about right now, is just kind of a state of the union, if you will. We're at that All-Star break. Let's just kind of take a step back and like look at everything and just kind of give our general thoughts and opinions. I mean, it's been a really interesting season. Obviously, when it comes to the Indiana Fever, and I think a lot of these teams, there's been a lot of inconsistencies. I mean, even like the Golden State Valkyries, who I would say has been incredibly impressive. Now, granted, I know they've lost 3 in a row. They're 4-6 of their last 10. But from a big picture perspective, in their first year, I mean, this has been a franchise that's really, made some noise from the fan base, from the marketing, from, just the valuation of the franchise as a whole. I mean, they've been really impressive. And that's with them losing basically their entire roster midway through the season. We know that franchise is competitive. They've been impressive. Almost in some ways you can make an argument, are they too competitive? Like, seriously. I mean, everybody's wrong. Like, the whole narrative's like, if you're an expansion team, you're not going to be good for a couple of years, blah, 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 blah. Well, it's an interesting time with especially the CBA, which that's a whole other topic of conversation about what's going to happen with that. And like the players like not agree. I mean, again, that's for another day. I don't want to dive into that right now because I personally need to spend more time thinking about it. But like, can Golden State like make a playoff run? And is that the right thing for them from a draft perspective? Obviously, I think they're going to be able to attract free agents. Look at what they're building out there. Look at the facilities. Look at the practice facilities. It's been top notch. They're the highest value WNBA team right now. I don't know how that number came to fruition,
right?
But according to that, it says that. So it's
according to the publications. Yeah.
Golden State's been good. I think, Los Angeles Sparks, we could talk a lot about them. This is a franchise that made a lot of decisions to be in win now mode. And they're 4-6. They're 10th in the standings. They've won a couple in a row before the All-Star break, but like, what's going on in LA? There seems
Well, can I even add to the point you're making about Golden State not making the playoffs or making the playoffs? We need to think of it in the term of there's also going to be 2 more teams
correct
in that draft. So if you don't make the playoffs, you're in the lottery, you're locked in. Those expansion teams, at least as history has shown us, I don't like, hey, W could do whatever they want. As history has shown us,
correct.
If you're not, then the 2 new teams. So we're talking about if you're not one of those 5 teams that didn't make the playoffs, then you're getting bumped 2 more spots. So even if you're the 8th team in the playoff, you're picking 2 spots later now than you typically would have in years past. So it could actually be, look, it's a draft. Anyone you can find an Ariel Atkins in the second, you can find a Kmart, whatever. But that is something to be thought of in the sense of making it this year. But I do think there's something to be said about making it in your first year. I mean, they have a 7-4 home record. Obviously, some of those recent losses have hurt them at home, but that home court advantage is ridiculous. I don't understand why there's reports of Vegas hosting or proposing to host All-Star next year. I feel like the Valkyrie kind of have to, given...
I mean, I would be opposed to another Vegas All-Star game.
So hot.
Let's talk about Vegas.
Whatever.
Let's talk about Vegas.
All right. A'ja Wilson's a freaking
absolutely
amazing, ridiculous.
She's
oh my
the best
God.
player in the world. She's the best player in the world. She's still the best player in the world. Her team's not the best right now, or have they been in a year and a half?
Or near.
I mean, lots of changes need to happen in Las Vegas. I mean, I'm just looking big picture, like, I guess what I'm trying to do right now is talk about like, who are like the ones at the top. Okay. Minnesota, New York. We expected this. This. I know, honestly, both have flailed at different times. I think there's probably an argument to be made that neither team has played their best basketball yet.
Definitely.
Like Golden State. I could say maybe they have peaked and played their best basketball. Do they flail and struggle a little bit in the later part of the season? Phoenix Mercury. I mean, I don't know where the bar was necessarily before this season. I think it was like solid, like middle of the pack, top 6. I think this team, could make some noise, but honestly, no one really kind of knew. The Phoenix Mercury, I think, have they played their best basketball? Have they peaked? I think it's probably not fair to say that because they have been hampered in and out with injuries. Now you add a piece like DeWanna Bonner. This team's legitimate. I think this team is legitimate. I think that they do have another gear in which they can play on. And then feel free to interrupt me if you feel like you disagree.
No, the thing with the Mercury that I find interesting, first of all, I'm going to point out that you and me disagreed about whether or not they'd be good this year. And
You're right.
I had them over Seattle. As of now, I'm right. We'll see how long that goes, right? They're just a couple games apart. Don't pick the early winner of the race, I always say. No, but Phoenix is interesting. Phoenix is interesting because, like, what I've seen in the past couple games is that when you added Bonner's been great since being there. She's been hitting shots, much more looking like herself than we saw in Indiana. The only concern / question that I have is, at no point this season have we actually seen a fully healthy Phoenix Mercury roster.
Correct.
Like a game or two there, we saw the big 3 together. But even then, we know Ka was still coming back, wasn't 100%. Satu had a lingering, there was all these things going on. And now you add Bonner. And over the past few games where they've been really hampered, I think last game against Minnesota, they only had 8 players or something. I've seen, there's a positive and a negative to this where they can kind of, because AT and Bonner have played together for a good period of time and they are so close and they feed off each other in that way, they're able to kind of revert to a slightly different style of basketball to survive the injuries, is what it seemed like to me. And my worry is that that's going to carry over when the injuries are done, that the style of basketball that we've seen be so successful for them this season might be altered with the addition of DeWanna Bonner. And I think that was something that, we talked about when there was discussions of this possibly happening, and not to say like, oh, it's obviously about to happen. It's just, that's my concern because I saw them adjust and it was justified in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
But I worry coming out of the All-Star break, if they're a little bit more healthy, Satu's back, so-and-so, how does that change their game?
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, we both agree. We don't think we've seen Phoenix peak or play complete basketball. How could you, especially when you have an element like this added in the middle of the season?
Mm-hmm.
All right, what about Seattle? I mean, Seattle's been very impressive to me. I think they've taken a jump this season. I think the chemistry on this team is the most, from what I've seen. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I've been in and out the last couple of weeks, but from what I've seen out of Seattle is they've got what it takes to be competitive with anyone any given night. It's been more about consistency, putting together a 40-minute consistent effort with this team. It just feels they're in the conversation. They're in the conversation. They have been relatively consistently healthy. Am I missing something there? I think that they've probably been one of the teams that has their core consistently on the floor together. It's going to be interesting how that looks the second part of the season. Can they remain healthy? Because I don't think that there's a lot of margin of error there. You've got to have Nneka. You've got to have Skylar Diggins. You've got to have, Gabby playing great basketball. I don't know. I've been impressed with Seattle. I don't know if, I could sit here and say they've hit massive rocky spots. I think they've taken some losses that they wish that they could have back. But I like this team. I think that they can be in the mix and they could make a deep playoff run.
Yeah, I think the thing with Seattle, I haven't been wowed. I like them. They're steady, but they're not consistent, if that makes sense. Like, I'm not seeing, these crazy highs where I'm like, this is the best team in the league, and then drops down to like, this is a non-playoff team. I've seen consistency in me understanding that they are not in that top three, but they're nipping at the feet of, that next tier. They're in that next tier, but like there's a huge gap between those top three and Seattle, just looking from a stat base, whatever, in terms of points, rebounds, assists, blocks, steals, field goal percentage, 3-point made, 3-point percentage, and free throw percentage. The only stat that they're top 5 in, which is kind of shocking to see this when I look at it, is free throw percentage, and they're third. They have so much skill on this roster, and we've seen them be able to battle. They've beaten Minnesota, they've beaten New York. We haven't seen the consistency, and that's been a huge thing. They have the star power, they have the guards, they got the size, they have the ability to do stuff to the best players in the league that other teams can't, right? With the size and the length that they have in their front court, this roster is ridiculous. There's something missing. I don't know what it is. It hasn't come together for me to say like, hey, this team can compete with a Minnesota, with a New York, and honestly, even with a Phoenix right now. That's just where I'm at.
Yeah. Atlanta Dream, another interesting one. I mean, again, I think the biggest glaring concern here is, the injuries, the consistency of being able to see this team, at full strength. I mean, Ryan Howard, the way this team plays was put, Gray and Howard together are such a dynamic, so dynamic from the guard spot, and the way this team is going to shoot threes. And I think so much of their success and ability to play well relies on that. And she hasn't been healthy. I don't know maybe you can shed some light. What is the situation with Howard, and kind of, does anyone know?
I have not seen an exact specification of timetable. We can look that up in a moment and then, readjust what we're saying. But no, look, it's been a thing where she had some, bangs and scratches, whatever you want to say, but was playing through it, had a brace on the knee, had a pretty scary fall, and then came back. It was kind of impressive, kind of shocking that she came back. And then a little bit later, they did MRIs or some sort of scan and realized there was more of an injury.
Missed a handful of games. I mean, and obviously last 4, if I'm doing I'm not a math major, trust me, but if I'm doing a math right, 4 or 5 games, whatever. Atlanta 5-5 in their last 10, sitting in 5th place. I mean, from what I've seen so far is this team can go toe to toe with anybody in the league. They can also drop to the bottom of the barrel and struggle with any team in the league. It's kind of like you don't really know what you're going to get any given night. I don't know if that's what the coaching staff how they would describe it with this franchise. But like right now, I think if you kind of look at the big picture, headed in the right direction. They've obviously come a long way from what the Atlanta Dream franchise we've been talking about for the last couple of years. In terms of the competitiveness, I really do think wholeheartedly. I mean, obviously they had a huge monstrous win over the Chicago Sky just the other night to wrap up the break. I'm sure that was a huge sigh of relief to be able to go into the break with a big win over Chicago. I mean, Chicago had like 5 players. So that was a must win, I think, for Atlanta, just to have a little bit of momentum. And maybe this break is something that, it's like we get healthy, we take a break. I don't think this team has played, they've peaked. I don't think that it's realistic to think that they could with a new coach and new system and having, it's the same thing. I just feel like very few teams have peaked this season. A lot of teams have had a lot of high profile, high shot making players be out. And it's been this way with like 75% of the league. It's fascinating to me. But I think with Atlanta in particular, like if they want to be in the conversation at the end of the season and look to make a deep playoff run, they've got to be healthy. They've got to be healthy, and they've got to have Howard in the rotation.
Oh, 100%. So 3 days ago, she was ruled out for the remainder of July, and a timetable for her return will be provided when available. I think she's only missed 3, maybe 4 games, 3 games. So yeah, definitely. The thing for me, Atlanta, I look at them and I say, this is a team that has all the tools, and it's not necessarily about inconsistency. It's about, how do I put this in a way that won't get people looking at me weird? It almost direction, almost not leader, but like they have so much talent. They don't know who's supposed to be doing what in their time of need. Let's say BG's having a big game and then they fall behind. It seems like they don't know to go back to BG, or do they start feeding Ryan, or do they start doing this? Like it just seems like they'll have a player have a really hot, first half, then disappear in the second, or have a really hot third quarter, disappear in the fourth. There needs to be more of a focal point, for me at least, when I watch this team, of finding the player that's been successful, or figuring out who to go to in that exact moment, who fits that moment's need. And I think that's the difference between a good team and a great team. They understand how to play off the player who can provide the most in that moment, because you should have a roster that can do it, and they do. Obviously, though, not having Ryan Howard kind of puts a huge hole in that.
We don't need to go through every team. I mean, like I said, I just wanted to catch up on, like how are we feeling about the first half? I guess you could say half. Is this considered the halfway point?
Yeah,
roughly. I mean, how are we feeling?
Minnesota's played 24. Some teams have played
significantly
22.
more games. I think New York has. I don't think they've peaked. I don't think Minnesota's peaked.
New York hasn't peaked. Will they?
Where's Emma Meeseman going?
Where's Emma Meeseman going? She is going to make a huge. And here's the thing: we were texting about this the other day. Like, oh, it's kind of crazy. She hasn't decided yet. This is a time period where you have a break. You can join your team in practice. But that said, I was like, wait a second. The reports have all been it was between Phoenix, New York, and Minnesota. Then Phoenix signs Bonner, so it seems like it's not very likely she's going there. And then it's like, oh, Sandy and Reeve are both at All-Star. What's the point of coming to practice and like get integrated into the system if the head coach isn't there? So I definitely understand not as much of a rush or a justification of not rushing to make this type of decision. Totally get that. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, what?
No, I'm just, it's up. I mean, I guess, do I say it? My sources, have made it very clear that Emma Meeseman is down to, the Minnesota Lynx and the New York Liberty. And you're kind of sitting back and you're kind of looking like, okay, like if I'm Meeseman and I'm looking to make this decision, what is the best decision for me? To come in here and make an impact here the second part of the season. And what is that role? What is that impact? And where do I have the best chance of winning a championship? And it's interesting. Mm-hmm. It is the top 2 teams. I don't know what some of these teams are doing, waving players, thinking they might be in the conversation, LA. But everything that I have heard is it's between the Minnesota Lynx and the New York Liberty. So, I mean, why rush to make that decision before the All-Star break? I mean, I would imagine that we should know something here in the next, it could be today. I don't know. 2 to 4 days. Well,
it's going to be today if you say not. So.
I mean, I would think that there would be an urgency to get back, right, and get settled and situated, like before the second part of the season. But like, in your opinion, who needs her the most? Who needs a player like Emma Meeseman to come in and help them? Because both Minnesota and Liberty, it's not like there's sheer dominance. You've got Jonquil Jones, who's been hindered with injuries with the Liberty. You've got Minnesota that just waving and changes, just seems like they're missing a piece. You can slide Fee over to the wing, but do Miesemann and Fee play well off each other? To me, my gut tells me that Minnesota would be the better option. And that's just based on my opinion. That's not like, I don't even know what the thought process is, but it almost feels like to me, Minnesota might need her more.
Yeah, I think Minnesota needs her more because here's the thing. If let me, like, this is just the way my brain works. You game plan it out. You put her on New York. Okay, at that point, what do you do with the whole Fee-Bitch Cloud situation, right? Does Emma come off the bench, or do you go big three up front, Emma, Stewie, JJ, and then you have Fee-Bitch at the point, and then you got Sabrina. That is a ridiculous five. And then you got Cloud coming off the bench. For me, that's a more successful because that's five scorers. Whereas if you have Cloud in there, that's four scorers, and teams can kind of adjust. And that is why New York was able to win. Again, I say this all the time. Why New York was able to win is because they had five scorers out last year. Minnesota, I cannot stress this enough. They have been missing Chechi Zandalicini and Bridget Carlton of last year. Bridget Carlton of last year was shooting much more frequently, much more comfortably, hitting a higher clip. And that is an issue for this team. Yes, Natisha Heidemann's shooting a little bit better, but missing that bench scoring. And I was critical of the Carly Samuelson move, but at least she was hurts not having her. With her out, that's a huge issue. Diamond Miller's been stepping in, but I'm sorry, she still has not shown me growth in her ability to finish. She can hit open threes. She can hit a couple contested threes, and that's great, but they need more scoring. That's just what it comes down to in my mind. So if you add Emma, you can shift Fee to the wing. You can play Emma there if you want. You can now rest Alana Smith a little bit more. You now have so much more flexibility, and yes, you have more size, and maybe Emma isn't the fastest, and you're going to slow down a little bit, but you still have Courtney Williams, you still have K-Mac, and then you can kind of focus on larger lineups and adjusting your guard rotation. I just think it's pretty obvious that, yeah, I agree with you. It's a better fit there. And also, I think her role makes more sense there. Yeah. If that's, yeah, but sure. I'm from Minnesota, so maybe I'm biased. I want to just talk about one thing, Rachel, because we've talked about this in years past, or I guess just last year, but Angel Reese's growth over this year has been phenomenal. We're talking, she's shooting 45% from the field. That's a huge jump from her career 40. I mean, it's been up because of that. 3-point percentage still down low. We need to get that up higher than the 20, but that's fine. But what she has been able to do, she is so much more consistently hitting her shots on the bucket. There's still some bad habits that we need to break loose of. But I have seen in this sophomore year a huge step from Angel Reese. It has been really, really impressive and fun to see. And it also pairs so nicely with her defense. Her defense has been stepped up also. And it's been, look, Chicago's still struggling. I'm not going to say like Chicago's going to be, Angel Reese's MVP now and Chicago's going to be making whatever.
Sure.
But the records she's breaking, the stats she's putting up, averaging 14 and 12 and a half rebounds, 14 points, 12 and a half rebounds on the season with 4 assists and a steal and a half is pretty wild. I mean, look, we talk about a lot of other players, Alyssa Thomas, a lot of other players who fill the stat sheet, and she is doing that in a ridiculous way and finally getting that percentage up, which is the thing that we have been yelling about for a while now.
Well, and I'll take it one step further. I mean, it's giving credit where credit is due. I mean, shout out to Angel Reese, especially with, a franchise that has been flailing for a couple of years now. And she's doing this under 2 different head coaches. And then she's putting up the numbers that she's putting up this year while struggling for the first, quarter of the season. She openly talked about, the start of the season and how she was struggling. I mean, you talk about the numbers. Yeah, she scored 14 points a game, shooting it much more efficiently, around 45% a game. Obviously, the perimeter, the 3 ball has been an element that she continues to work with. She does look more confident in it. She looks like she's stepping into that role a little bit more. The thing that stood out to me the most about Reese is her ability to facilitate the basketball. When you look at the way she was playing last year and passing the basketball and moving the basketball, that's always been an element of like how she could play. But right now, her assist numbers have been what have impressed me the most. She's averaging just under 4 assists per game, point forward, whatever you want to call it. Like her passing, and maybe that's a part of Tyler Marsh's system that maybe if there's a silver lining and just a team that has struggled is, she's been put into a situation where that element of her game can thrive. I think it's everything combined, but incredibly impressive with Reese this year. Again, to do this when you haven't had in just your second year in the WNBA, you haven't had much consistency from a coaching standpoint, even from the pieces around you standpoint. There's been a lot of change. She looks confident. She's playing really well. You can tell she's put in the work. You can tell that she's gotten better. The numbers don't lie. Look at the numbers. She's getting better, and her game is evolving in real time. And it's been really fun to watch her this season, especially, when the start of the season, she did struggle a little bit. Again, long way to go with Chicago. That's a whole other story. We'll see. We'll see if this franchise can do enough this season, Reese being a huge part of it, to attract high-level free agents. And to be able to after this CBA, after this season and moving forward, like the direction of this franchise moving forward, like what does this look like? I still have questions about the practice facility. I'm going off on a tangent here, but like who wants to go play with the Chicago Sky? I will say Angel Reese playing the way she's playing right now, like that's a bright spot. That is a massive bright spot for this organization. It's been really fun to watch her.
Oh, most definitely. Okay, real quick. We're not going to get into Rookie of the Year because I think that is a discussion that can probably go into its whole own convo because it's going to get really hard. I think it's pretty, at least in my mind right now, it's Paige. We've seen Paige early on. It was not her.
But I do think it warrants like a discussion because there's a lot of rookies having some incredible years right now. And maybe that's something we talk about next week after All-Star or something when I have a moment to really sit down. But like a really, really tough rookie class just across the board. It's been fun.
Yeah. And I think MVP, we should probably bring into that. It's a little bit shorter of discussion because here's the thing. It's been Fee clearly throughout the year. Over the past few games, we've seen a dip from her. Now, we've seen a dip in some games where it wasn't needed because other players were stepping up. Yeah. And Fee's not the type of player. I mean, their team system is not the type of system that's like, oh, even though we're winning, we still need this player to get X amount of points or X amount whatever. That's not how they do it. She's been able to rest a little bit more. She had some foul trouble in a recent game. And A'ja Wilson has just been on a tear. We can get into a whole discussion. It's insane.
She's closed that gap for sure. For sure.
She's definitely closed the gap, but here's the problem for me. We're talking about an 11-11 team. We're talking about a 500 team. Now, fine, we can say MVP, most valuable player.
That's
Minnesota would... Yes, but that to me, that's what it's going to come down to is like at the end of the day, it's going to be hard to make the case for MVP. A'ja Wilson would have to do insane things in the same way that we said this when Tina Charles had that crazy season, right? To be on a team with a losing or 500 or outside of the top 5 and win MVP, you need to be doing like ungodly things.
And I think she can, but like what can help her is if this team can string together a freaking 3-week stretch where they're playing well. Can that happen? I have no idea. I have a lot of questions right now when it comes to Vegas, but I do think if anyone can do it, it's A'ja Wilson. If anyone can do it, it's A'ja Wilson.
And she comes back from like a sprained wrist with like all these issues in her hand, and she scores like 37 and 10 or something ridiculous, insane. All right, we've gone over on this episode. We'll discuss that more in depth. We'll do a whole yearly awards. Those are the big two, I feel like.
I agree.
All right, cool. Well, we'll be back later on.
Bye, everyone.
Appreciate everyone. Enjoy All-Star. Make sure you check out the Sideline Sisters, another show from the Winsidr Network, wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure you're checking out Winsidr on all of the social media platforms. In the show notes, we have some affiliate links for some merch. I'm talking Homage and I'm talking Fanatics. Use those links when you purchase your WNBA merch. They got some really cool stuff for All-Star and a whole brand new set of WNBA jams that you should check out. Peace.